Hey everyone, how you doing? I hope you're doing well. It's Liam from Pushquare and I've just finished watching the Resident Evil showcase. It's late, but I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil and I'm very excited to talk about everything I saw in the trailer and have figured out through my extensive terrible knowledge of Resident Evil. So I'm here today to give you my reaction and analysis of everything that was revealed during the Resident Evil showcase, alongside some things you might have missed. So where to begin? The Resident Evil showcase gave us an extended look at Resident Evil 8, including some gameplay alongside a brand new multiplayer game called RE-Verse. So starting with Resident Evil 8, the game looks stunning. We mainly saw the castle environment, but it looks gorgeous on PlayStation 5. It was lavish, extremely detailed, and bore a striking resemblance to Sadler's Castle in Resident Evil 4. It's all very decadent and sort of decorated in a Renaissance style. So yeah, visually, it looks really, really nice. Other than that, what we mainly saw was that Resident Evil Village continues 7's emphasis on enemies that are also fully fleshed out characters, like the Bakers in Resident Evil 7, but this time we have these castle-dwelling cultist women. Okay, we'll circle back to these very, very shortly, but let's talk about the story. So here's what we already know. You play once again as Ethan Winters, the protagonist from Resident Evil 7. Following the events of that game, Ethan and his wife Mia, who was infected in 7 but was cured in the canonical ending of that game by Ethan, are living in a remote location trying to forget about that family they had to kill because they've been infected by a young bioweapon who was a girl but also an old lady. She was friendly. It seems that Chris Redfield, who alongside his fellow Blue Umbrella operatives, that's the same Umbrella responsible for the events of the original trilogy, but don't worry, they're good now because they have a blue logo instead of a red one, rescued the Winters from the events of 7, pops in for a cup of tea, and also to give Mia a bullet to the brain. This new trailer shows us that Chris also steals their baby for good measure. Nice guy, this Chris Redfield, which is presumably what motivates Ethan to travel to the village so he can rescue her. So why would Chris Redfield steal their baby? Well, two theories about this. The first is that Chris is infected by the mold, the same virus that made the Bakers all mutatey in Resident Evil 7. The key art for the game shows Chris as like this half-human, half-wolf, and his human face is also like bleeding from the eyes. It looks a little similar to when Mia is infected in Resident Evil 7. Well, she was controlled by the child woman, same thing, mold bad, which is also a potential reason as to why he randomly decided to introduce his bullets to Mia's face. It could also be that Blue Umbrella want the Winters baby because Mia was infected, so the baby might be bad. That's not a fully formed theory, so let's just move on. Both the new trailer and the gameplay sequence are set entirely within the village's castle. The castle is owned by this very tall lady who we all sort of became a bit obsessed with over the course of the last week because she's 9 feet tall. We also know, thanks to some additional information released after the show, that her name is Lady Dimitrescu. I'm sure I'm butchering that. She lives in this castle alongside her 3 daughters, lovely polite women who can turn into swarms of flies and seem obsessed with the concept of man blood. They cut into Ethan's leg, give him a good sniff, they're mad for it. Presumably they're all part of some kind of cult. The daughters are all wearing trinkets, they have the same symbol on their forehead. There's a shrine outside the castle alongside lots of these, I guess, totems. They're similar to the ones in Resident Evil 4. The tall lady also mentions a ceremony when she's on the phone to Mother Miranda in this sequence, so there's definitely some kind of religious element to the village.
No, Mother Miranda. Yes, of course, I understand the importance of the ceremony.
Also, could this Mother Miranda be the game's main antagonist? Potentially. Maybe Ethan's baby has something to do with this ceremony as well. The tall lady also mentions that Ethan managed to escape her little brother's idiot games. Now this is probably a reference to a previous section of the game. Maybe this Heisenberg, she also mentions on the phone call, is the leader of the wolves in the village itself, perhaps. We see more of this lad, who could be Heisenberg, and who seems to have telekinetic powers. We don't know who he is just yet, but he seems to be a boss of some kind. The final character we saw was the Duke, who serves as the game's merchant. He sells items and offers weapon upgrades to Ethan, and seems to have a lot of personality. He'll be doing random things whenever you find him. They really wanted us to know that fact. He'll be doing different things when you find him. You can spend your currency with him to buy items, buy weapons, upgrade existing weapons, and your currency is apparently Lai. I saw this in the top right of this screen. I tried to find out if that was a real currency anywhere, but the closest I can find is Lu, which is the currency of Romania. The village is distinctly European, so it could be set in that part of the world, perhaps, or at least a fictional country within that area. Also, the last thing I'll say is that everyone seems to know who you are.
Now, let's take a look at him. Well, Ethan Winters.
Which is interesting. Almost like you're an essential part of this ceremony, perhaps. I'm willing to bet that Umbrella or the Connections, which is the bioweapon company responsible for the events of 7, have been nested inside this town for a long time. Pretty sure we saw an Umbrella etching in an earlier trailer, so maybe they had some kind of facility here, like they did in the village in Resident Evil 4. Speaking of Resident Evil 4, the attaché case makes its return in 8. You can play item Tetris, and I'm so very happy that this is a thing. You can also craft healing items and ammo, which is a nice addition. Combat looks largely the same as it was in Resi 7. It's all in first person, you can block, use melee attacks. As for weapons, we know at this point that there's a pistol, a shotgun, a knife, and a rifle. Mainly though, speaking of combat, there's a far greater enemy variation this time around, which I'm really happy to see. The biggest issue I had with 7 was how every enemy was just the mold. But here we have these hooded vampire zombie lads that live in the tall woman's basement. They've got rotten fingernails and bad teeth and no pupils. They're terrible. I hate them. Kill them. Then there are the werewolves. Seems like there's at least 2 types. These smaller boys and this massive fella with a big hammer. I'm assuming the tall woman and her 3 daughters will stalk you around the castle. Doesn't look like you can kill the daughters with traditional weapons. When you try and shoot them, they just turn into flies. We did see some other flying enemies as well, circling the castle in one shot. They look a bit gargoyle-y. I'm getting huge Van Helsing vibes from this game. Puzzles and collectibles are making a return, which is good to see. They're a staple part of Resident Evil now. And that was kind of all I could get from the trailer. It looks a lot like Resident Evil 4, which I'm very, very excited about. That's my favourite game of all time. There's a lot here to indicate that the game will feature similar themes and imagery, which is interesting. Maybe we'll see more overt links when the game finally launches. But speaking of launch, it's out really, really soon. Resident Evil Village launches on the 7th of May 2021 for both the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4. Yes, it's launching on last gen as well. They kept that quiet, but it does make a lot of sense. And you get a free upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version if you buy it on PlayStation 4. If you can't wait to play, there's a free demo available now exclusively on the PlayStation 5. Titled Maiden, the demo is a unique piece of content separate from the main game. There's no combat, it's set in the castle. Apparently there'll be references to it in the main game. A second demo will also be available on other platforms, including the PlayStation 5, later in the spring. When you buy Village, you'll also get access to a brand new game that celebrates Resident Evil's 25th anniversary, which takes place this year. Reverse, or RE-verse, is a multiplayer PvP shooter that allows you to play as famous heroes and villains from the Resident Evil series. You can battle it out in weirdly wide versions of classic Resi locations like the Raccoon City police station. It's cel-shaded, it looks kinda bad. I'm not into this, I won't lie. It reminds me too much of Umbrella Corps, and if you don't know what that is, may you continue to live a life of blissful ignorance, and I wish you all the best. Anyway, it comes free with Village, and I will definitely give it a try, but I do not have high hopes. Willing to be proven wrong, though. Oh, and also The Division 2 is getting outfits and items from Resident Evil. Leon, Jill, and Hunk costumes. This bit was a bit out the blue, but cool if you're into both of those things. And that was it. That was basically everything that was announced during this showcase. What did you think? Are you excited for Resident Evil Village? Did you notice anything else that maybe I missed? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider giving it a like and make sure to subscribe to Push Square for everything PlayStation. Thank you, as always, for watching.